Bonsoir guys, hope you're all well. This video is a bit different to what I normally do, so bear with me because it will either come out really well or it'll come out really rubbish. A build video of my brand spanking new carbon Mardave Mini, which I'm really excited to get built up and ready for racing this coming Sunday for round 2 of the Neo Super Sunday series. So I'm hoping to have a carbon Mini built up and ready to rock and roll for that on Sunday. So it'll be a carbon Mini and a carbon hot hatch or hot rod, depends which way you want to go with those. And as much as I'd like to turn around and say this is a completely sponsored video, and thank you so much to Mardave for throwing stuff at me. No, I bought this myself, although very generously I did speak to the owner of Mardave, Chris, and he's thrown me this in. Don't know what that is though. I think we'll come to that in a bit. Right, I'll try to go through this as straightforwardly as I can. Now, in fairness to the kits from Mardave, you get everything you need, minus a battery and radio gear, although there are complete sets that they do sell with everything you need to set up to go racing. So just get in touch with Mardave and take it from there. So we'll go through it step by step as we're supposed to do with regard to how we build it up, and we'll follow the instructions that are on the sheets, with a couple of little tweaks and amendments here and there, and I'll discuss those bits as and when I come to them. So you need your brand new chassis plate, which you can see is all pre-drilled. A lovely bit of carbon there. That's worth at least 4 seconds a lap. Even on an 8-second lap, you know, it'll half my lap time, just the carbon chassis. So first bag opened is the battery and chassis holder. Now, quick point of difference, I am running the updated side spring package that comes with this, and the reason being is updated usually means better, usually means faster. That's all well and good. Do you really need it? No. If you're just starting, personally, I'd stick with an old school rear pod, which doesn't call for this upgrade. However, it is more stable to drive. What I would say is you only start to notice it when you can turn regular, decent, consistent laps, that you're now starting to notice the difference between some of the changes you'll make. Because when you first start out, I certainly found that, yes, there was changes, but I didn't understand why I was making the changes and how they were affecting the car, because I couldn't do 2 laps consistently without crashing. So until you can get 5 to 10 laps consistently hitting decent lines, sometimes you'll make changes and have no idea why. That being said, a better setup car will help you be more consistent. So your battery holder should look something like that. As I say, I have the updated side spring pod version, so mine has these little indentation extra bits like that. So then we've got the updated pod. Now I've also got a different pod to use as well, so I won't put it together, but this is the kit that you get with the side spring pod. However, because I'm now, you know, every now and again a top B, or maybe, depending who turns up, A finalist, I've asked for an upgrade. So this I've paid for, which is the lower motor pod. Now if you can see there, this hole is physically lower on the pod than this one, which is the standard one. And all that's doing is lowering the actual motor within the pod housing. So everything with this is trying to lower the centre of gravity, which, as all racers know, that's why Formula 1 drivers sit with their arses on the ground, because they're trying to lower the centre of gravity. So that's the upgraded pod, which I'm going to fit to this and to this. Just whilst I'm fitting this, I'll just quickly show that this is the new upgraded droop holder. So, and it's also a double O-ring holder. So you've got one pin there that goes in and out that are just droop. I'll cover some more of this later, but I just wanted to show that on some kits that might not be standard. But with this one, with the upgraded side spring mount, it might now come as standard. I would assume it possibly does. But you know what assumption is, guys? If you're worried about actually putting one of these kits together and thinking, oh, it's a bit complicated, anybody that's confident we're doing a decent Lego set can put one of these together. And if you go to your local club, if you're ever struggling, there's plenty of people on hand to point you in the right direction. And the secret to getting this right is to not over tighten everything, because you then end up in danger of stripping the threads through the plastic, which now something that doesn't come with the kit, but I do. As when you're mounting the pod here, it wants to pivot around that. Now you can add, I don't know if you'll catch this on camera, I'm not very good here. You can add underneath there, let's see if I can hold it right so you can see it, a 0.5 mil or 1 mil spacer, which has the pod therefore sitting at a little bit higher of an angle. The theory there is to add a bit more rear end grip. So progress so far, we've now got the rear pod mounted with the double O-ring holder and the new droop screw holder part. The lowering pod, so the motor sits a bit lower, and we've fitted the side spring upgrade with a 1 mil shim in between, try to get it on camera so you can see, in between there. So there's a 1 mil spacer at the bottom, and again the idea of that is so that the pod angles a little bit further back, allowing the motor to have a bit more, well, the tyres and the axle to give a bit more grip. Whether that works or not, I think it does, but as I say, sometimes you need to be able to put at least 10 laps together, then make a modification, and then be able to put 10 clean laps together afterwards to notice whether or not these things help. And so far I'm getting to the stage where modifications and things like that within my racing, hence why I bought a carbon kit, I'm starting to notice that things make a difference. So trying to improve where I can. Right, rear body support. Now, a basic Mardave kit will come with one body mount at the back, so one pin goes through for you, but for the shell to mount on. When you're racing, I highly recommend, whether you get the carbon one or the ordinary GRP upgrade, buy the double one. Your body doesn't move as much on your shell, or doesn't move as much on the car, and it's just better. Sometimes you don't need a reason other than get it because it's better. In fact, I've got to admit, it kind of surprises me that they still sell the single one. Right, so that's mounted. Now these two pieces do come out the back, but as I don't know whereabouts on my shell these are to go yet, I'm not going to mount these until I've organised which shell I'm running with this. Right, next up is front suspension. So let's open the front suspension bag and see what we get. We got a bracing arm. We get some shims. Now, I'm not sure if they come as standard or not. If they don't, but if they do, happy days. Now, if they don't, these are super important now. Whether you buy them from Mardave and order some there, or there's other vendors, for example, DDR Racing. They do lots of shim kits and things like that. And that is how you get your ride height. So it's well worth making sure that you've got some shims to organise your ride height correctly. Right, I'm going to tip all these little parts into my little magnetic tray so they don't all go flying off. Well, that's interesting. The kit comes with the yellow springs as standard. I've never run the yellow springs. I usually run quite a hard red spring because I like front understeer, but I'm going to build the kit as is. Quick tip, when putting the kingpins in, you may have to force them through a little bit, or you could get the right size drill and drill out the hole, but I think you then risk introducing slop into the kingpin, which is not what you want. Quick word about the C-clips, you get a few extras because I guarantee you're about to flick them all over the bloody room. Whoever invented the C-clip is a hateful man. there must be a better solution in 2023 to the humble C-clip. That's your front end built up. I'm not going to talk yet about where I put additional shims or anything like that. I'm going to do that in a different setup video. But that is your front end built up and ready to go. So the car's really coming together quite quickly now. So we've got some front body posts, some body mounts to fit it here at the front, funnily enough, hence why they're called front body mounts, which I can put on, and the new style honeycomb bumper. I really like these bumpers. I think they look really smart. I think, especially with the carbon fibre, I think it really sets it off. Now, once upon a time, we used to all run just pieces of foam at the front. And the idea is to kind of protect the front of the car and protect the track that you're damaging. So that's kind of what they used to be. And then third-party people like DDR, for argument's sake, came up with other fixing mounts, which are quite solid and good. That's why I use them. But when you get a bit better and you're not crashing quite as much, touch wood, that's the kiss of death. This car will be wrought off now in a night. Pieces like this really help finish off and make it look dead professional. Well, professional in a toy car sort of format, but I just think it makes it stand out and look really cool. So I really like these. Definite bling to go with the rest of the bling. Could do with some anodized nuts, really, couldn't I? In bright green. Mardave Mini. And my two servos have arrived. I've gone for a Core RC 4012, only £9.29. 4 kilograms of weight it'll move in 0.12 seconds. Now I think that's talking about the throw of the arm, but don't quote me, I'm not an expert here. And it weighs 42 grams. However, this is my cheaper version at less than £10, so I'm going to use this kind of a backup, and in case regulations for other series is kicked back in, at least I've got one I can put in. However, for the Super Sunday series at Neo, I've opted for this e-tronics, and it's the ET2026 model. And this will move 6.6 kilos in only 0.09 of a second. So again, I think that's the throw it's talking about, but I'm no expert here. However, there's a significant weight saving in this. It's only 26.3 grams, so it's almost half the weight of this one, but it is also almost half the size. So I'm wondering how that will affect the steering arms. So when that comes up, how it'll affect the turnbuckles with regard to having to shim them up or shim them down to get a level height for steering, which is kind of the desirable thing. So I think I found a couple of little snags with this. So I'm hoping to mount the Tronics, but look, a bit of inexperience and confidence here. So I've done away with the tiny little grub screws, which were supplied with the Mardave kit, and I've gone for some longer ones to actually come through with the support. So these ones that go through, I've swapped them out from the really small ones that there were to ones that are a bit longer and a bit more substantial. Now I really like this little micro server, but in order to mount it, if you can see, I don't know if you can see, there's actually a gap between the servo and the bottom of the actual carbon chassis. So I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be, if there should be a gap there, or if it should be flush against the plate. And if it should be flush against the plate, I'm not sure how that's supposed to mount without some sort of spacer going underneath. I like this servo. However, I think the other issue that I've now found is my speed controller in every other Mardave that I've built mounts to the top of the servo. It's too big really to go at the side, it's too big to go at the front, there's nowhere to put it at the back, so I'm kind of coming a bit unstuck without reverting to the cheaper Core RC. So might have dropped a bit of a boob going for that. What I'll do is I'll have a walk around the pits on Thursday and at the next Neo event and just have a look at how everybody else has mounted them with regards to the minis. But I'm not convinced that this is the right one for the Mini. It might be perfect for the hot hatch because you've got that additional room, but I'm not convinced this is the right way to go with this, so I am going to revert to this Core 4012, which in theory is a little bit not quite as good, but it's the one I've been using in all my other minis, so there you go, just a bit of feedback there. It's a process. Building these things is always a process. Okay, so that's mounted, and as you can see, it is flush with the deck, which in my opinion gives it some more residual strength, as opposed to being like the other one. The other one would have been elevated off the deck. Yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of using the other one, but I'm not. My intention isn't to try to sacrifice reliability for performance. So if that, because it's off the deck, ends up being a bit of a weak place, and also at least now I do have genuinely somewhere I can mount my speed controller. Another bit that was quite fiddly was I've spoken about the rear pod having the lower motor axle mount, and the pod itself have been upgraded. Thank you very much, Chris at Mardave. He's thrown in a motor lowering plate. So not only is the axle sitting lower to the ground, the motor with this plate sits, if you can see there, the spindle, the shaft, is sitting not in the middle of that, of the hole. It actually sits a little bit lower. So again, all things lowering the centre of gravity of the car, technically to help handling. So I'll say that helps, making the assumption I don't crash. Definitely agree that the cheaper servo fits the car a bit better. Again, I can position this properly. I've got the wires to tidy up yet. But yeah, we're coming together now. Another hour and we should be have some wheels on. So just fitting the rear axle, and this is the axle that got supplied with the kit, but I don't know if I'm fitting it wrong or if it's the wrong style of axle, because for the love of the money it's not going through these bearings. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong here, or if this is, because there's an upgrade you can do to all the Mardave cars, and in fairness the Camtech ones as well, I think with the Z drive, or it might just be the Mardave cars, so this might be a Z drive axle. Now, not to worry, I do have an ordinary axle, but you can see there's, I don't know if you can see on camera, and there's what I'm going to assume is a Z drive one. There's a little indentation there, and you can feel the thickness of the shaft. It seems to be just that little bit thicker, the diameter, and there's little indentation marks, I assume, for something else to clamp onto that. Whereas with what again I am assuming is a standard one, there isn't those parts on that. So a bit frustrating, but never mind. Luckily, we can strip that off another car, so we're ready for Neo on Sunday. Okay, and after about 2.5 hours of faffing about, we're there with a completed build, which I don't think 2.5 hours for me, scratch building a kit all the way from the start with a couple of issues going through isn't too bad. Not too bad at all. And isn't she a thing of beauty? I'm loving the carbon look. Absolutely loving it. So let's have a quick run through of everything that we've done, any little quick hiccups that I've had, and we'll talk through some of the little bits. So this is the Mardave Mini Assassin Carbon Edition. I'm running the G2 F20 motor. I'm running a Ultra Circuit HR3X, which is actually a little bit of an upgrade, I think, over the standard kit. So cheers, buddy. A Futaba receiver. Obviously, I've got my MRT transponder. I am running a power cap. As I've mentioned earlier, I'm now running the Core RC4012 servo. and the reason for that is, as I've discussed, it just seems to fit better and allow me to mount the ESC properly on top of it. I am running the side spring modification, which I do like. I'm running the standard black springs that were supplied with the kit. I haven't changed those. I'm running the standard spring that is supplied with the kit at the back. There is a harder one available, which I'll possibly switch to. I'm not sure yet. Pinion and spur setup, I'm going to run what came in the kit. So it's a 15 tooth pinion with a 48 tooth spur, and we'll just see how that goes. If I feel the need to up either the pinion or the spur or change things around during the course of a weekend's racing, we'll see how we go. I've yet to set the droop, of which I'll probably have about 1 millimetre. That's way too much as it stands at the minute. The ride height at the back wasn't too bad with a battery in. I think it was about 4.2 mil, something like that. But the front is sitting a little bit higher than I would like. So the front's currently sitting at 4. So we'll definitely have to have a look at that. Little things that I really like out of the box. I'm usually having to shim underneath the steering arms to bring this level. That seems to be pretty much level as is out of the box, so that's quite good. I don't have to faff about too much with that. The kit itself is very light, so you do notice a bit of a difference between this and a standard Mardave, because as you do, you compare. Tyre wise, I'm sticking with my tried and tested 50s at the front, and these the Mardave Pro Grip mediums at the back, because I'm liking those. That I need to worry about when I first take this out on track is just have a look at how it rides, see the ride height, see whether or not I need to change that, or maybe the spring at the back, potentially the springs at the front, but it seems very, very stiff at the front as is. Now, something I haven't done is I haven't put any grease on the kingpins to help lube that up, so that's possibly something I need to have a quick look at. But overall, really happy with the car, dead pleased with how it's turned out. Issues wise from the kit, I haven't got any really. Only a niggle with regard to the axle that was supplied, but again, in fairness, I think that might be just an axle that's for the Z drive, and I don't have a Z drive system, so yeah, but not to worry. Rip one out with another car, and I'll just order another one. So I've always got a spare. I like to have a spare of the majority of the parts. Quick thank you to Chris from Mardave for supplying the lowering plate for the motor. That's a cool little upgrade, which again lowers the centre of gravity. I had ordered the lowering pod, so the pod itself sits a little bit lower, so the axle sits lower to the ground, the motor sits a bit lower to the ground, all to do with lowering your centre of gravity. Other than that now, guys, I need to go and put it on track and see how it goes. Right, as always, thank you so much for watching. Any comments, any tips, tricks, anything that you guys think I should have done differently or should change, please put in the comments below in the video, because I'm not the only one that reads the comments for help and tips and advice. People will watch the video and then have a look through the comments to see if more experienced people have put better suggestions. So please do that, it is helpful. And other than that, cheers, toodle pip, and people will say see you trackside, but I tend to just say toodle pip, guys. So toodle pip.